Welcome guys, appreciate you tuning in today and wanted to bring you this video a little bit about hermit crabs that you might have recently considered or actually bought while you're on vacation. Matter of fact, if you found this video, you probably found yourself trying to research a little bit about hermit crabs and so forth because you did buy them on vacation. A lot of times it's an impulse buy. Just recently got back from vacation a few weeks ago, and my son had been after me wanting to buy some type of alternative pet than what we have, standard cats and dogs. So he was wanting a lizard, a turtle, something, and he was really anxious and wanted to consider getting a hermit crab. So we spent $25 on this case here and 2 hermit crabs and a little bit of accessories. So with that said, that was not the best setup for long-term housing of hermit crabs. So I did a little research in the beginning, just kind of, hey, they're easy to take care of. They, eat a lot of different varied foods. They don't have to have specialty food, things like that. And I didn't do a lot of in-depth research until after we had purchased them and started researching and things like that. And I just kind of wanted to discuss that a little bit today with you guys to help you out and kind of make an educated decision. They're really neat animals. They come from the tropics usually, so there's certain environments they need to live in as far as humidity and temperature and stuff, and we'll briefly talk about that here in a minute. First off, I'm not an expert at hermit crabs whatsoever. This is just based on my research after my purchase, and I wanted to make sure I've always been a responsible parent, responsible pet owner, so either I'm going to take care of them correctly or I'm going to find somebody that can. So my son was really anxious and excited to get them, so we decided to go in and make sure we were doing the right thing. So when you first get your hermit crabs, you're probably going to buy something like this plastic case, which is what I did. I think we paid like $25 for 2 small hermit crabs and that case, and that's one of the larger style cases. They actually make them smaller than that. It is okay for temporary housing. Let's say you're going to take your hermit crab maybe to school, to show and tell, or maybe to science class or something. Something like that is fine for temporary housing, but it is not suitable and sustainable for long term. Now, when I say long term, let me talk a little bit about hermit crab life. If they're taken care of correctly, you're talking 30 years, kind of lifespan, so they can live a long time. So what happened was, after I bought this, I got to researching and realized that is not the best housing. So went to my local PetSmart and wound up spending another $125. So I've got like $175, and I've actually probably spent a little more than that with some accoutrements and things inside the case here. But you can, if you're kind of frugal and you want to look around on Craigslist, you can find some. I found some people selling their entire hermit crab setup, or maybe just an aquarium or parts and pieces that you can find a lot cheaper than I found it, obviously, at my local PetSmart. But they were either too far away, I didn't want to drive over there, something like that. So I wound up just going to my local PetSmart and decided to bite the bullet. And the manager over there was very nice. They actually have a hermit crab kit in a 10-gallon size. This is a 10-gallon aquarium. And what happened was, when I went to look at it, it got mixed reviews at best, but I figured, hey, it's kind of all in one kit. It did have a lot of the things that I needed. So I thought I could do away with the things that maybe wasn't the best or add to it. The problem was it was cracked along the bottom. So I want to give a thanks to PetSmart and their management at my particular store. The manager was nice enough. He actually sold me the he had a 10-gallon reptile aquarium that he sold me, and then he gave me all the accessories that came in the other kit for free. So I actually wound up saving a little bit of money, actually. So anyway, there's a lot of different thoughts. First off, I'm not an expert on hermit crabs whatsoever, but this is just based on my research. A lot of people, different sizes, different types of aquariums. Some have this wire mesh top, some have like a plastic top, all kinds of things. So me personally, I like this style. I think it allows more flexibility with the tank. If you had the mesh style, it allows you to. Hermit crabs need moisture, and they live in a tropical environment in the wild. So these are wild animals. They're not bred in captivity for the pet trade. These are actually harvested in the wild and then sold into the pet trade. With that said, I think the mesh top was a little more versatile, in my opinion, to regulate humidity, because these things need humidity, so you're going to need to, and I'll go through all the little things that you're going to need. But with that said, if you had a plastic top and you couldn't regulate the humidity in and out, you can create mold in your environment, which can cause problems. So I like the mesh top. It's a little more controllable, I think, than a solid plastic top that doesn't breathe quite as much as a mesh. Actually, occasionally I'll put, if the humidity starts dropping and it's not high enough, I'll put a towel across the top that kind of holds in the humidity. You can regulate humidity with different methods, and we'll talk about that here in a minute. But hermit crabs need water, and they need a substrate, and they need two kinds of water. They need, and keep in mind, when I say water, you're going to have to buy a solution, and mine came in the kit where you actually take out the chlorine and things where it's safe for the hermit crabs. So you can use tap water. I actually opted to use spring water that was bottled, and I still treated it with the treatment that they give. And then they need a salt water. So the salt water is kind of a bath type thing, and then you got fresh drinking water. So if you look here, I have the large water container and the small container. The small container back here in the back actually is I put the salt in there. And I'll take this top off here and I'll kind of show you around the tank best I can. Right there is the fresh, and back underneath this is the salt. So you're kind of wondering, what is all this stuff? Well, you're going to need what's called a substrate, and I did a mix. So in the kit that I bought, it came with essentially ground up coconut husk. And then it came with sand. No, I'm sorry. Maybe it came with sand, didn't come with the coconut husk. I can't remember, but it either came with both or I bought the extra. So they like to bury, and they bury for different reasons, either to get away from certain things or just kind of comforting. They also do that when they shed. They actually will shed their skin, kind of like a snake, when they start growing. So that's part of that, and they like doing that in a buried type environment. Now the rule of thumb is you need to make sure that your hermit crab can bury like 2 times his size into the substrate. Now I'll tell you a little trick with the substrate. When you buy it, it's kind of like in a brick form, and you add water to it. And when I bought the packaging, it was way too much to fill a 10-gallon tank with just half of it, and then the rest with sand. I kind of want to mimic what they used in what they're in the wild. And a lot of times they're in a sandy environment, they're in a jungle, substrate, this type of environment. So I did a mix of both, so they have the sand and the other. So because you break the brick up and put it in water, and then it expands, and then you break it apart. Well, the remaining is still damp, and I didn't want to potentially create mold. So what I did is I put it in a nice Ziploc bag and I put it in my freezer. So now, even though it was moist, I didn't want it to create mold and then ruin what I'd already bought. So I just stuck it in the freezer, so it should be fine long term in the freezer. There's nothing that can go bad about it once it's in the freezer, unlike food. So then they like climbing. That's the other thing that I found out all my research. They like climbing. So I bought this piece back here from the local pet store, and I got this out of my yard. I made this bridge, and then we'll talk about this moss pit here in a second. So if you decide to get limbs and stuff out of your yard, that's fine. Make sure that they are dry type limbs. They're not like green right off the tree kind of thing. So find some deadfall, and then once you do that, wash it real good, and then put it in the oven and bake it. I bake mine for probably well over an hour, and what you're doing is you're killing any mold or bacteria that could be potentially on it. Now, I know some people get hung up, I think, a little too much on the hermit crab situation, talking about, this and that. They live in the wild. I mean, they eat a lot of different stuff, and we'll talk about that here in a second. They're exposed to metal because they're climbing a fence. They're exposed to this, they're exposed to that. But with that said, keep in mind also that they're exposed to it in limited times because they're in the wild. They can move from point A to point B a lot easier than in a 10-gallon tank. So yes, you do have to be careful. You can't put bacteria or fungus and things in here that could potentially be harmful if you care about, make sure your crabs are appropriately cared for. So I bought, like I said, I bought this, and then I built this little moss pit with this bridge. Now, this bridge, I just took some twigs. I actually bought these twigs at PetSmart. They come in a bundle, and I think they're actually for the bird industry. So the moss pit, you buy the moss. Don't just use any moss. There's a certain safe moss that you can buy at PetSmart. This little bin here I bought at Dollar Tree. It's just a plastic bin, and I use suction cups to hold it on. Put the moss pit, and then I built this bridge out of the twigs with just some simple fishing line that I drilled holes and strung it after I cut them all to length, and attach it to here. So now they can climb around in the jungle. In the tropics, they like climbing. Matter of fact, a lot of the natives in certain areas call them tree crabs. So they enjoy that climbing and moving around a lot. So keep that in mind to keep them entertained, keep them healthy. You need to have a way for them to climb around. They also like hiding. So luckily, the original little kit that I bought came with this little half coconut Hermit hut, they call them, and some other shells. Now, speaking of shells, I bought 2 hermit crabs originally, and then when we went to PetSmart, we actually bought a third. And they're all small and similar size. You don't want one beating up on the other and stuff like that. They usually wind up with a pecking order anyway. But just for general purpose, I bought them all very small and very similar in size. With that said, you need, because again, they like changing houses. They grow, so they need bigger shells, things like that. So you'll need to buy or find shells like this that are similar in size but maybe a little bigger than what you have, and give them some variety of shells to switch around through. When I bought the one recently from PetSmart and put him in here, within a day he had switched shells 3 different times and finally wound up with a different one than he started with. So they do enjoy doing that. Let's talk food a minute. There's a lot of good websites and forums about hermit crabs, some specifically about hermit crabs, believe it or not. And they give you a big safe food list. The main thing to keep in mind, they'll eat a lot of fruits and vegetables, nuts, grains, things like that. And you just cut it up. If you look back here, this bridge I've got to where I can take it off like that and fold it out of the way. And then if you look here, usually most people have a little dish that they use, like an old shell, and that's what this is. So what's in here is some apples, some pears, some peaches, and a couple of pistachios. So that's the kind of stuff they like. And there's a long list. So they are fairly, and if you look, I just now noticed this, if you look, see one of my hermit crabs right here, he's climbed up the tree and hanging on up there. So they do like climbing, they like doing that. And I just cleaned out this tank today and kind of reorganized and cleaned up everything and rehydrated the substrate. Really nice and good. A couple of them were buried. I went ahead and dug them out and loosened the substrate and just kind of did a little house cleaning for them today. You know, I put things in I like this little greenery stuff. I just bought that at my local, I think Hobby Lobby, or my wife had it or something. And I just strung it inside around the thing just to kind of give it a jungle look. It actually probably doesn't do anything for them. It does offer it mimics their, you know, what they would be looking at in the wild and different type of stuff. But like I said, they do like climbing. If you see that one, like I said, he has climbed up that tree there and really likes doing stuff like that. But guys, I just wanted to kind of brief you. You know, if you're going to do it right, you're going to spend some money with these things, and you're going to need a hygrometer. That's another piece of the puzzle you're going to need, which tells you, this one in particular tells your temperature and your humidity. Now the rule of thumb is probably around 75-degree temperature to 80, and then your humidity about the same. Now luckily these are designed for the pet industry, so it tells me that it's showing a tropical environment. So as far as humidity, and then it tells me where I need to be in temperature, so I can just look at it, and my son can look at it at a glance and see that it's probably where it needs to be. So you're also going to need some kind of heater. Now I opted for a stick-on heater that's over here. Let's see. This stick-on heater, matter of fact, it says Hermit Crab heater right here. And like I said, all this stuff starts adding up, gets kind of pricey, but once you buy it, you have it forever, and if you take care of it, you know, you can have a lot of fun with this. My son's already first day of school. We had open house, and he was talking about potentially bringing his hermit crabs in to show his class and do a little discussion about them, and kind of an educational show and tell that they do there, and he's excited about doing that. So it's fun. Like I said, they don't really smell. They don't really make any noise. They do get a little noisy at night. They are somewhat nocturnal, so a lot of times most of their activity is done at night, and then they kind of go in hiding during the day and just kind of hang out, either buried or hiding in something or whatever. So keep that in mind. But you're going to need to keep your temperature at a certain level. I do this with this lamp. They sell these specific lamps, and they're really expensive for the pet industry. This right here is a lamp, one of those clamp-on lamps you can buy from Lowe's or Home Depot or somewhere, Walmart. And I just keep it where it's kind of like sunshine, and it creates heat. I can feel the heat coming off this thing even right in here, and it does regulate temperature really well. So you can use something like that if you want to buy one specific. They also make different lights. They make one that's kind of a moonlight that shines, that kind of represents what it would be like if the moon was shining at night. So there's different variations, but anyway, guys, like I said, I'm not an expert, but if you any of you hermit crab experts want to chime in, and maybe I missed something, or maybe I misspoke, or something like that, be glad to hear from you. But do a lot of research, guys, and if you're going to do it right, just make sure you're doing it the correct way. Your water and all that needs to be changed out periodically. What I did was I got a little case, little thing here for my son. It's got all the necessary things that he can use. You'll need salt. This is soaking salt. Don't use table salt. That's why I said you need to do your research. This is some crab food. I hadn't really used this. They say you can. Some people say it's not good for them because maybe it's got preservatives or something. But either way, it came with the kit, but I hadn't really used it. Then you have these conditioners here that takes the chlorine and stuff out of your water. And then, like I said, I just use these and I mark them. This one's not marked, so that means it's plain water that's been treated. This one says salt. That means salt water. And then you have a spray bottle. Believe it or not, they sell spray bottles like this in the hermit crab section at PetSmart for like $6. That's ridiculous. Buy you just a Dollar Tree. It's cost me $1, and keep in mind the water that's in here is also treated, so it's chlorine free also. So I just have this little thing here for my son. It's kind of an easy way for him to organize his items and be able to find it all and keep it when he needs it, and so forth. But anyway, guys, appreciate you tuning in. If you got any questions, or like I said, you got a hermit crab expert that wants to chime in, I think I went over most everything. But yeah, do your research, guys. Don't think that you're going to spend $20 or $10 on a crab and a little thing and have any long-term, in a couple months, maybe a couple weeks even, or less. You're probably going to kill your crab, and then your son or daughter, you're going to have just an empty case there, and they're not going to be happy about it. So if you're going to be serious about it, and kind of actually concerned not to kill the crab you just bought a week ago at the beach, do it the right way and actually set up a nice habitat for them. It's once, like I said, for kids, man, it's great. They get to learn an education, get to take some responsibility of keeping things clean and taking care of an animal. That's always nice, and this is something that's manageable. A lot of people ask, do they bite or do they pinch? Yes, they can. There's ways to do it if you're going to handle them with a flat palm, because if you're curved like that, they have access to your skin easier. So if you're holding them, be gentle with them. Don't drop them. Again, do all that research about that, but just be gentle with them. Don't try pulling them out of the shell. You'll damage or kill them, and little things like that to keep in mind. But very fun, guys. But anyway, guys, appreciate you tuning in. If you got any questions, post those below. As always, guys, we'll bring you another video as we make them and find something that you might be interested in. Thanks.